goes on to face MMA. And in the left side of the map, we have the blue Protoss player representing SK Telecom T1. He is Classic.
And on the right top side, I know a lot of you came out here to support this man. He's going to need your support in game number 5. Give it up for CJ Enters herO. This is it, Nate. I'm feeling it.
Yeah, this is, we just in our second best of 5 of the day, we make it all the way to the final map. Everything on the line. There's no more comfort zone for either player. If you were coming into this tournament thinking, maybe I have to have a secret ace strategy, this is the map to bust it out.
Yep. It would make absolutely no sense to ever hide something in game number 5 of the quarterfinals of the World Championship. And once again, we see herO opening up with the 11 gate. I love my 11 gates, Nate. It is going to be a 13 gate for Classic.
And he's once again going to have access to that very quick attack, or that warp gate, whichever one he wants to go for. And we've seen these openings used for fast 3-gate play. We've seen it used for Blink. And of course, we saw it used earlier this series for Stargate. Yeah,
this could even be a map where herO could be so sure of the fact that Classic is going to play a certain build that he's like, you know what, I just want to get my Twilight console even a few seconds quicker. I don't think it's going to be the case. I also don't think that herO is a 3-gate opener in general. I know that he's done it a couple of times in the past, but opening up with 3 gateways is also very risky. It's not like building 2 gateways in your opponent's main, but it's still a build that needs to do some damage. And I'm not sure if herO wants to put himself in that position.
Yeah, we kind of talked about where his build orders took him in this series earlier, and if you go for those Blink, you're really trying to make it all about your control and being able to outplay your opponent. But how do you feel about the setup for this? He doesn't have anything crazy yet.
But herO has lots of gas, so most likely this could be another Stargate build, because you could say that this is identical to what he showed us on Nimbus. He could still be a Twilight console as well if he wants to get fancy and he just wants to get access to super quick Blink, but I think Stargate makes a little more sense.
All right, well, both players are actually going to scout each other with their probes first, so the multiple spawn locations on the map will not be a problem for either of them. They'll be able to get a little bit of a read on what they're up to.
This is really good, though, for Classic, because this time he will find herO's main base immediately, and he's going to see, like, hey, that's a really quick Stargate, man. Like, I'm pretty sure that my build order was correct up to this point, and you just have everything a little quicker than me. That means that your first gateway was quicker than mine. That means that you're playing a less economic game than I am so far, but this time he knows, and it's so important to know in PvP.
Yeah, you can make the choice now if he wants to just prepare to defend a couple of Phoenix Harass and then take a fast expansion, or if he really wants to just turn up the heat. And this Twilight Council will give him access to Blink, which of course he can use to keep track of those fast-moving air units and try to play a little bit better defense.
Classic is a crazy Protoss. I wouldn't even be too surprised if it's like 1 gate into Twilight and he just adds 3 more gateways and he tries to straight up win with just 4-gate Blink Stalker, which would also be extremely risky. But hey, if you're willing to proxy gate in game number 4, I'm pretty sure that risks don't really matter in what build you choose.
He's adding on gateways, Roddy, and the thing is, this makes this Oracle that herO's about to finish up so much more important. When you're playing around with this, if you lose this Oracle, your ability to produce units to defend back home is inhibited. Getting out at your tech is going to be tougher. He needs to keep him at home.
How many Stalkers does he have, though? I'm actually a little bit worried. Classic, that Oracle is about to show up in your mineral line, and I know you have a Stalker or 2, but having Photon Overcharge would be very nice now.
Yeah, that mothership there to distract was quite nice. The Oracle's only picked up about 3 probes so far, but what's most important is that it stays alive and he scouts the Twilight with the gateways.
herO miscontrolled that, though. If he wouldn't be shooting at the Stalker, he could have actually killed 6 or 7 workers over there, because 2 Stalkers really don't have that much DPS. Yeah, Classic is going to be aggressive, Nate. He's not thinking about anything else right now other than let's just get Blink as quick as possible. He gets a good scout and he sees that the follow-up is going to be the Twilight.
Playing with fire there, does get the mothership core out. 3 worker kills with it, not bad at all. He's just trying to slow his opponent down a little bit.
This pylon in the natural, this is a really important pylon. If this pylon does not get scouted, I think herO is going to have a very rough 30, 40, 50 seconds ahead of him where he won't have Blink and his opponent will. Of course, he does have a Photon Overcharge to rely on, so that is very nice.
He needs to keep this Oracle active. Classic will expand. He's a little bit afraid, it seems, to move out because, of course, if that Oracle gets in and kills your workers after you move out, it's like, well, well, you can't afford to reinforce, and then, you know, herO builds an advantage off of that.
Well, he even gets 2 sentries as well, and I really love that our dedicated observer Infeza is showing us that pylon is still there. That pylon did not get spotted. And now the most important thing about this is not the ability to just send units into a res, but he can always wipe in a single zealot, and he will see like, hey, herO, you are still on 1 base, so that means that if I can keep my Nexus alive, I am going to be in a fantastic position. This is like the tables are turned. If you wouldn't show me the names right now, I would think that herO is Classic and Classic is herO, because this is crazy.
Yeah, well, this is still a very aggressive position, though. The Oracle does once against the boy. It's built up quite a bit of energy, so...
I'm not sure if I like that robotics facility right now. I think he's maybe worried about something, but all that Classic has to do is just make as many Blink Stalkers as possible. Oh, herO was actually adding in a Dark Shrine. Well, then it's a great call regardless.
It's really tricky because he still doesn't have an expansion. The Oracle dying loses that high ground vision. Of course, the Mothership Core will be a little bit more vulnerable, extending itself.
The most important thing about that Oracle donate is that it would force units to stay in the main. He's going to blink forward. That's a questionable decision, I think.
He's got the photon overcharge as well. He's peeling away a couple of these Stalkers. But what's most important is you keep the Nexus, keep your economy in. Now, what are herO's choices?
Now this Zealot is going to see like, hey, there's no expand, and he can actually block this probe from dropping it. Yep, and herO's like, man, where did this probe come from? The most important thing about
he canceled his Dark Shrine and he started it again.
Well,
that's
strange.
Little bit.
Oh, maybe he wants. Maybe he wants it to scout. I have no idea. That's indeed a questionable decision. Anyways, the photon overcharge is still active. The Stalker count, I believe, is slightly in favor of herO, but I think that herO also knows that it's hard to imagine that he can just power through without high ground vision over here. He lost the Oracle, he lost the Mothership Core. This is going to get very, very tricky, unless he goes for an absolute suicide blink, but nobody wants to make those, Nate.
No. With the Guardian Shield, it's very difficult to win head-to-head with the Stalkers because they just take less damage. herO finds the pylon in his natural, but you know what? Still, taking this base at this point in the game when your opponent already has that Nexus done, he's just going to start chronoing out probes if you go home, man.
Yep, Classic knows that right now he is in a pretty good position. herO's going to try to push the issue a little further. He does have a few more Stalkers now, but with that Guardian Shield, just makes it really, really hard to break through. Great micro from both sides.
Yeah, I mean, herO is just continuing to put the pressure on. He understands that the clock is working against him if he doesn't kill Classic now. Classic's continued to make sure he can't take that natural, and the Stalker count is so close, he's even bringing probes up so good damage.
This is the herO's moment, but he's actually, what? I mean, that would have been hard to win, but I'm pretty sure that he was willing to try, Nate.
Looked a little closer than that.
I think we have a minor technical difficulty over here. I don't think this was actually a rage quit, as herO is way too nice to rage quit, and nobody would ever rage quit when you still have so many Stalkers. It's a very, very, very close game.
Yeah, that was such a tense moment. You know, you have a herO trying to use that low ground position, which, you know, it's always difficult because once you get up the ramp, the first thing you had to do, which he did brilliantly, was pick off the sentry, right? Because the Guardian Shield, if you guys don't know, takes off 2 damage. So when you're playing with the same units against each other, being able to block that, it's a huge lead to have defensively for Classic. But
and I really love how Classic was already picking up on the fact, like, hey, I just walked in a Zealot there. I see you still have no expand. This means if I just keep my high ground right now, you have no high ground vision. If I just keep my Stalkers close to the ramp, I am always going to get a bunch of free shots off at first because you have no vision. So the first volley is in my favor. And even if you have a Stalker or 2 more than I do, my high ground advantage should make up for it. Unless, you know, herO would go for the crazy blink on top of all those units. But then he loses so much micro potential, which is obviously not something that he's going to do. So a very, very tense and close situation in Game 5, but you kind of love the defensive position from Classic over here.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, it's really hard to see how exactly herO's able to bring him down, because you can't just trade away. You need to take out that expansion, or, you know, cause him to pull more of those probes off the line so that you can at least hurt him badly enough that you can take your own expansion. It just seems like you've kind of put yourself in a place where you have to kill him now.
Yep, and that's so weird because in the previous games we saw the complete opposite from the boys. We saw Classic always being the guy putting himself in that position where he has to pretty much kill herO. Or, I mean, maybe King Sejong Station, you can argue over that, but in the other 3 games that was definitely the case. Now herO is doing it to himself. Normally such a solid Protoss player who has a lot of confidence in his late game ability. You know, herO kind of did this to himself. And I really think losing the Oracle was detrimental. I think the Oracle is so important because not only will the Oracle keep 1 or 2 Stalkers in the main mineral line, the Oracle will force the Photon Overcharge to go down in the mineral line if there's nothing else there. But losing the Oracle allowed Classic to bring everything to the low ground and make his life 10 times easier defending in low ground because he doesn't have to worry about this crazy flying unit killing all his workers.
Yeah, it's such a crucial unit to have. You really, it really just, even if it can't kill anything, it keeps fear in the opposing player's heart as far as moving out goes. Because imagine if you're able to take that front fight and then the Oracle goes into the main base mineral line. Like,
then it's perfect. Then herO doesn't have to win the game there because if he kills 10, 15 workers, well, then he can still just expand on his side of the map, you know, and everything is fine. But losing the Oracle was, of course, a good forward playing by Classic, but you know, herO should be good enough to realize how important that Oracle is in that phase in the game and that he can never lose it without forcing a Photon Overcharge during a critical battle for that expand.
Yeah, it's so difficult making these clutch calls when you're in.
Yeah, of course it is.
You're in a position where one big mistake costs you your entire BlizzCon run, your entire WCS run for the year. It's just so, it's got to be so stressful too.
No, I totally agree with you, Nate, but that is the idea behind the strategy, though. This is like, all right, he's expanding, I'm not. Well, if I use my Oracle to force either a Photon Overcharge or keep 2 or 3 Stalkers in the main, I can win that fight in the natural. That is the whole idea behind this threat. So obviously it's really hard to make all the correct calls, but that is what herO wants. That is what MC tried to do against him just last week on Merry-Go-Round, and MC did make it work. It was close, but MC did make it work on that map.
Yeah. I mean, really, at this point, is it even possible for herO to try and just go back and expand, or is he still need to do more? I
mean, I think he needs to do more. It's very hard. Like, you're asking me to pick between 2 evils.
You mean you play Protoss? And like I'm just trying to understand the position a bit better.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very hard to push the issue even further in the natural because he lost all of his high ground vision. He lost the ability to keep units in the main base, and the unit count is pretty much even. He could try it one more time, and you know, if he micros like an absolute god, if he just has absolute perfect, you know, automated 2000 micro, then it's possible, Nate. But with anything less than that, you could say maybe it's better to fall back. The biggest problem is if he falls back right now, Classic already has those mobile blink stalkers himself too. So that's difficult because then you're basically just giving an open invitation to Classic to attack you in a minute or let's say 2, 2.5, 3, and it will be very difficult for Siege Enter's herO to defend. I don't know. Like I said, it's 2 evils.
You're right. I mean, I guess he can immediately put pressure right back on him, and then he doesn't even need to invest that much into probes. The more he can just move a couple down to his natural, since having them more spread out is going to allow you to mine more efficiently anyway.
I want to give a big shout out to all the very creative cheerfuls that we're seeing so far. You guys are awesome over here. Keep them coming. We love seeing the cheerfuls and we love reading them. Always brings a smile to my face. Definitely think the guy with the arrow saying that the person in front of me is a Bronze League herO. I'm not sure if the other guy likes it, but I thought it was funny.
Well, these guys are creative, man. Those StarCraft fans, they're a smart bunch.
Next time we're sitting next to each other, I'm gonna make one for you too. This guy drops mines with a big arrow.
Well, you know me, when it comes to mine dropping, I can't keep myself. I mean, I'd probably just 2-gate man every game. Be like, well, you know, I saw some GSL champion do this in the World Championship Series, so it can't be too bad of a play.
Alrighty, we are going to continue the action of game number 5, but we can see immediately what I meant. Classic is going to get a bunch of free shots off. I would love to see the Stalker count right now, because it has to be ridiculously close. Oh, 16 against 14. That's bad news, Bear, for herO. No high ground vision, a lot of damage Stalkers, and he's being down his stalkers. One more sentry is being added, but that sentry won't have energy yet for Guardian Shield. You could still say that herO's still doing it now or never, Nate.
Yeah, he's moving up the ramp once again. Both players blinking back stalkers. A couple of them dying on herO's side a little bit more, and that concave just allows more of the units of Classic to fire, but he blinks down. His force field actually limits his own ability to fight and loses a couple of stalkers.
Oh my god.
That was a little bit, I think, overzealous of him.
Over eager indeed. He really did not have to do that. Now it's going to be a little bit more tricky. It's 17 stalkers against 17 stalkers and a Zealot. Of course, Classic does have a superior concave on the high ground, and his life is so much easier because of the high ground vision. You can just see the stalkers from herO. Sometimes they derp a little bit, and if you wonder why they make that awkward moment, that is because they're not far up on the hill enough to actually see, so they have to be relatively close. He's going to try it one more time.
And he's bringing this Zealot back from his main base to try to soak up a couple of shots, and it will, but I mean, the blink control is like too good from both of these guys. The stalker count remains the same, and they're going to trade forever, but eventually herO's going to run out of money in his main base.
It's just a superior concave for Classic. He's going to get so many free shots off. It's almost an unfair battle for CJ and his herO. He's really making the best of it, though. The stalker count is still so close, but it just seems like he's fighting an uphill battle that you can't possibly win, but he's still going to try because he is CJ and his herO.
And this is his BlizzCon run on the line, the World Championship Series, everything for him. And like I said, though, without that natural, he's going to run out of money at some point. He needs to get some sort of big edge here. He really needs another mistake from Classic.
Well, we already had a big surprise earlier today with MMA being victorious over Bomber, and all 5 of our analysts thought that CJ and his herO was going to make this series happen, that it was his. But so far, Classic Nate, he's putting himself in a great position. It's 17 stalkers against 9.
He's managed to take out herO's army. Classic defense. herO with one last blink jumps in. And that's going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. The pylon taken out, and GG is called.